when I got into comedy, my life was kind of chaotic. And
Mhm.
the minute I stepped up there and I was doing comedy, all of the noise and chaos in my life just was quiet. I was in that moment. And
That's
for
cool.
those 15, 20, whatever I'm up there, for that amount of time I'm up there, I have nothing but peace.
You're listening to the podcast, Clean Comedy Chats with your host, Drew Davis. It's gonna be awesome and will change your life forever. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome back to the Clean Comedy Chats podcast. We're here again. It's a new week. I have a new interview. If you've been with us so far, you know how it works. Every week I bring you a clean comedy collective comedian to chat and get to know them. Hopefully I'm introducing you to your newest favorite comedian. Or maybe if nothing else, you just enjoy listening to us talk comedy and you get to learn a little bit about how the inside workings of stand-up comedy. I'm your host, Drew Davis. Mainly, and I'll be honest, mainly the point of this podcast is it's just me making new friends, and you get to hear me make friends live on the spot. So thank you, everyone who's listening. Feel free to check out our website, cleancomedycollective.com, for all the things that you could possibly dream of, including previous episodes. I'm very excited about today. Today, I'm interviewing a friend of mine, but this is our first, I think this is going to be our first real conversation. I think we've had one conversation on the phone, but our guest today is Chrissy Iles, as in Walmart aisles. Because I like that. That's going to help me remember it. Chrissy is from Oklahoma. I want to say you're from Tulsa, or where are you in
Yeah,
Oklahoma?
I live in Tulsa. I'm from Kansas, and that's important to me, but I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Gotcha. Where in Kansas are you from?
Far western Kansas, like right on the Kansas-Colorado state line, a little tiny town called Tribune. And that's home
Very
for me.
cool. That's cool. I did one show a year or so ago in Kessington, Kansas. Have you ever heard of Kessington?
I
And it's
honestly haven't, and I honestly thought I'd heard about all Kansas.
so
So,
it was just a strange show from start to finish. But Kessington, Kansas has about 400 people in it, and 300 of them were at this comedy show. So
that's
it
awesome.
felt like I was entertaining the entire town. And it was their like big summer kickoff event for this little town. And so I did one of my ending bits. I talk about how I went on a date years ago, and my girlfriend at the time went home with the comedian. We went and saw Adam Devine, and so I have a whole bit that I do about this. And this table in Kessington, Kansas, all these women, drunk women, found Adam Devine's wife on Instagram and all sent her a message about this, which highly embarrassing for me. And but when I went up and talked to them about it later, they're like, yeah, we just want Adam Devine to know that when you mess with Drew, you're messing with Kessington, Kansas. And
Oh my gosh, that's
so,
weird.
so
That's
I'm
small
all,
town life for you right there. They have their people's backs.
yeah, so that was something else. But well, Chrissy, it's so great to have you on the show. From Oklahoma, you're a stand-up comedian. Tell me about the Oklahoma comedy scene or the Tulsa scene. Based off of what I was looking at on your site, you've been to a lot. You've done a lot of Oklahoma comedy, and so I'd love to just kind of hear more about that.
Yeah. So the scene in Tulsa is really solid, very big, very diverse. I fit into a real small niche of it where I'm older, I'm cleaner, that kind of thing. So I
Mhm.
definitely have my own little market, but everybody's been really great and welcoming. I'm still what I consider newer. I'm in my
Mhm.
going into my fourth year, but we joke that I'm definitely the mom of the Tulsa scene, and they've let me kind of I'm take into that role. So I bake for every
Oh, that's
show.
so nice.
That helps me get booked too. By
Of
the way, they're like,
course,
oh, she'll
yeah.
bring cookies, she'll bring bread, it'll be great. But it's been great. One of the things I think with any comedy scene, there can be a lot of drama, and my age
Mhm.
plays into the fact that I'm beyond that. I've lived a lot of life. I'm 52. I have a lot of family. I have a lot going. So I kind of stay on the outskirts of it. So I'm aware of everybody doing everything, and I'm just showing up for a show or booking a show or doing something and then just kind of
Yeah.
moving on. But the amount of talent that's in Tulsa, because you're in Nashville. We hear a lot from Austin and these big markets, Chicago, New York, all that stuff. I'm always blown away at how much talent and diverse talent we have here in
Mhm.
Tulsa. from the dark and dirty all the way to the super wholesome, family, clean, whatnot. We've got all of the facets covered, and it is a really good scene to be part of. It's not overwhelming for me. I think if I was in some of these bigger markets, I'd be like, oh, I'm just such a small fish. I feel like a decent sized fish in this pond. So
I like that. I remember years ago when I was considering whether I wanted to move back to Nashville or like try like a New York City or LA. My attitude was kind of like I'd rather go be a medium fish in a medium pond than like
right.
a small fish in a big pond or something like that. But two things you just said that I think are incredibly insightful. One, the being above any kind of drama in any scene, because I think all comedy scenes have their own particularities or
Of course.
peculiarness of with drama. But I do think that's a blessing of being an older comedian. I did comedy in my early 20s, and I was all in the center of all the drama, and then coming back and hitting it harder when I was in my later 30s. I can relate to what you're saying, where you just don't care, like you just and you're better because of it. You're not bothered by that kind of stuff.
Right. They'll try to, like, I'm not saying I don't hear it. I definitely hear it. And I'm just like, I'm gonna spend the weekend with my grandkids. So this really doesn't, like, I wish you both the best. I hope you work it out. And then I'm moving on. Like, I've got
Yeah.
a lot going on.
I
So
love that. I think that's very healthy. And another thing you said that is actually advice I give to comedians when I teach classes is you found a little something extra to make yourself stand out by baking and bringing that to the shows. I'm gonna add that to my list when I tell people try to find something different to do, because I'll talk about how sometimes people bring in their own sound equipment, or some people take pictures or videos. I knew a comedian that offered legal advice to comics. She was a lawyer by day, and so.
nice.
But I think baking for the comedians is another good way to win them over. So
Right. Well, and they love it. We one group just had a big telethon this weekend for a festival that they're trying to put on, and they had gotten a grant last year, and that money's gone, so they're trying to and so I made bread for them to sell at their bake sale, and then they wanted me on the telethon, and I was busy yesterday, so we videoed a little baking segment with me and the one comic I tour with quite a bit, and he and I have a very brother sister kind of relationship anyway, and the video was quite funny, and so but that's what they all know me for. I actually got a message from one of the comics the other day with a picture of some muffins, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I am coming for your title as funniest baker in Tulsa." And I was like, "Well, good luck."
good luck. Yeah, man, that what a good title, funniest baker in Tulsa.
Yeah,
That could be like a comedy special
there you
album
go.
title right there. I
There
love
you
that.
go.
So do you have a favorite like comedy club or place to perform in Tulsa? And you can expand on that if like in general, what has been your favorite place to perform in the past 4 years? Like, do you have like a really favorite comedy moment?
Well, here locally, I love getting to work at the Looney Bin. It is literally a mile and a half from my house. Oh, my dog is joining us.
There, welcome to the podcast. What's your dog's name?
This is Sergeant Floyd Pepper, and he just goes by his rank, so he's known as Sarge.
Sarge.
And he's
Well,
definitely my best buddy.
what an honor to have Sarge on the
Yeah,
podcast. We might
I
have an
know.
extra because each episode we put down who the guest is. I
Yeah,
might make him one too, just
yes,
a guest on the podcast.
Sarge, actually, he was a rescue, and I babied him for a really long time because he came from a bad situation. But he actually literally got neutered about a month and a half ago so he could come to my comedy show, because I was doing a show at a dog park type thing. And I was like, well, if you want to come see me do comedy. So
Wow.
he gave up a good sacrifice to come watch his mom.
No one has ever given up as much to see as a comedy show as
So I
Sarge
was like,
did. I
please,
think that's
everybody
safe to say.
come. When I put out there, I was like, come, don't make my dog sacrifice be in vain. He can't
Yeah.
see mom's not popular.
What a hero.
Yeah.
So Looney Bin in Tulsa.
Looney
I've
Bin,
been there before. It's a lot of
yeah.
fun. Tell us
Yeah,
about it.
and the team there is doing such a great job with the club. It's locally owned, so I really enjoy that. Mason and his team, Amanda, they're doing great things there. So I love working my local club. But other little places here in Tulsa, there's my friend Brett does a show at a place called at Riff at Heirloom Rustic Ales. I love that. And then I do by every other month show at a little brewery called Good Cause, and that place puts back a lot into the Tulsa community. So I always really, really enjoy that. But locally, club wise, it's definitely the Looney Bin. I love getting to perform there. I did 2 shows there this past week, so it was super fun.
Cool.
But my favorite today where I've been, I mean, like, gosh, they've all been. I did get to do the Addison Comedy Club, or Addison Improv, and that was fun. But I just did one the other day, and I was like, this is the funnest show. And why am I just drawing a blank? It was so fun. I've been very, very fortunate to get to do some really fun shows. I'm getting to do, there's a theater in Muskogee, Oklahoma, of all the weird places, called the Roxy. And I did a show at it, I think a year before last, in the middle of a tornado. And they went ahead and had the show, and we had over 200 and something people there. We were blown away. I'm getting to do that again on the 13th of June. I'm opening for Carol Ann Milovicek. And I say her last name wrong. I'm going to have to learn how to do that, but I'm getting to open for her. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
That's awesome. Hopefully there will be one less tornado. Although I guess for
Oklahoma
people,
it is tornado season right now, so we'll see.
You guys are probably like, whatever. Go to school, go to the comedy shows. Tornadoes
Honestly,
are just little things.
They're like, yeah, we're not going to, until the sirens go off, we're just going to go ahead. And I was like, the sirens didn't go off until I was driving home. I was like, well, that figures.
That's funny. So, the only thing I know about tornadoes is like what I've seen in the Twister movies. So it's like, I'm like, I would never, but of course in Oklahoma, you guys are probably used to it. Now you mentioned opening up for someone, and that was another thing I noticed on your website is you've had the opportunity to open up for several pretty good comedians. So I was wondering if you wanted to share about some of the people you've opened up with, and then especially, I know whenever I get to open up with a national headliner, open up with as if I'm sharing with them, open for. What I meant to say. I always love the insight and wisdom and just experience I gained from them. So I was wondering if any of the share about some of the people you've opened for, and then maybe talk about if anyone has given you a lasting comedy insight or something.
I've been very fortunate. I got to actually open up for Yakov Smirnoff, which ironically, my parents and all comics and people my age were like, that's so cool, because they all know who he was. My daughters, who are 32 and 33 at the time, they're like, who? It's like, yeah, it's interesting. But I got to open up for him at our local club here at the Looney Bin, which it was interesting because he's had his 2,000 seat theater in Branson for a long time, and he was going back out to clubs and just kind of reintroducing himself to a whole new market, and then and so it was a different experience for him, but it was a lot of fun for me, and he was very, very kind. I got to open for Pauly Shore in Las Vegas. I had gone out there. I had gone out there for a New Kids on the Block concert. They have a residency out there, and I just got this opportunity to open for him. So if somebody would have told 1991-year-old Chrissy that would be my life this one weekend, I would have been like, no way. But it was awesome. He was great. He is in a weird spot in his life. He still does comedy, but he's not real comfortable with how he looks. So he's kind of standoffish, but he was very, very gracious. He thanked me for being on his show, told me to have a good time, and then met me as I came off stage, gave me a hug, told me he was really glad he'd had me on the show, and I was welcome anytime I was going to be where he was to let him know. So that was really awesome.
It's awesome.
I've opened for Adam Hunter, which was a total fluke. That was fun. But Gasper Randazzo, which he was on the Netflix show, The Trust. He was the very first national headliner that I opened for, and it set the tone for me. He sat in the green room and kind of like really gave me valuable time. Like, these are good things to do. These are not good things to do. You're on the right track with this. I mean, it was so helpful. He's so kind. And then then that was in Dallas. And then when he came through in Tulsa, he had me open for him again. Just a great, great guy. But the AGT greats like Orlando Leyba, Cam Bertrand, who by the way is now on tour with Matt Rife. So Cam Bertrand and Ryan Niemiller, I've got to open for all of them, and they're so great because they've had a different experience than me, and so they were always really super willing to share that with me. So lots more, but those were kind of like the highlights that I can think of off the top of my head. So
I love that. And I love hearing your perspective as a 4-year comedian. I think you might notice this as you continue to do it and as you interact with, there's just once you get to 4 or 5 years in stand-up comedy, there's a bit of a humility that comes back in. Like I
Oh,
think
yeah.
when we first start our first year, we might be brand new. First 6 months, everything's new. But then there's something that happens about a year to 3 years in where you're just like, look at me go. I am becoming
Yeah.
a star. I am doing all these cool things. And then, but I just feel like about 4 or 5 years in, you just start kind of settling into reality a little bit with
Right.
comedy. And then, but then as a result, when you're working with people, when you're on the scene, when you're interacting, when you're talking about it, from my perspective, as someone who's, I mean, I've done it for about 15 years. So, just talking to people that kind of, at some point they stop being like, I'm the greatest thing that's hit comedy. And
Yeah.
I do think it comes into 4 years, and then it becomes more fun though, because you do get to work with these awesome people or do these awesome things or perform in these awesome venues. And instead of having this attitude of like, they are so blessed to have me, you can just like sit back and take it in a little bit
Oh,
more.
yeah, definitely.
Did have you now starting comedy older? I'm wondering now if that was your experience as an earlier comedian. Did you have a bit of an ego, or has that ever come in, or has it ever like not been?
It was funny because I know people say this all the time, but fell into it. Like I've been told my whole life, "Oh, you're so funny, you should do comedy," and I was busy doing life, and I was like, "Oh, sure, I'm the funny friend at a get together or whatnot." And I had a friend who had a movie theater and they had a comedy club in there, and he had me come, and I was doing social media for them, and so I'd been to a lot of the shows and I was helping with all of that, and he called me. I was taking my granddaughter to visit her dad one weekend, and he called me while I was driving saying, "Hey, I'm going to host the comedy show this month." I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Keep all the money in the house. No worries." And then he goes, "I want you to do a set." And I said, "Actually do the show?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, you can do it, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess." He goes, and I said, "How long do you want me to do comedy?" Now, here's a man that's never run a comedy show in his life, right? He never booked it, ran it, or whatever. And I'm somebody that's never even done an open mic. And he says, do 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay. So
Yep.
I go and I sit down and I write a 15-minute set. Nobody got him. Nobody told me, you can't do this. You can't do this. So the day of the show, it's a sellout. I have tons of people. Like we sold out, over 100 people there. And I have the little powwow with the other comics before the show. And they're like, so who are you? And I said, well, I'm brand new. I've never done comedy before. And they're like, never? And I was like, no, this will be my first time. And they go, you haven't done open mic? I said, nope, just tonight. And I will never forget, because Casey is the one comic I work with regularly now.
Mhm.
He goes, oh, okay, so how long are you going to do? And he's expecting me to say 3 to 4 minutes. And I said 10 to 15. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I walked away, and Casey will tell the story now. He's like, I looked at the other 3 comics going, we know she's going to last 3 minutes, run off stage because this is hard. So be ready to fill. And I got up there, and if I would have taken a breath, I would have gone 15 minutes, but I went 11 minutes and some change. And I walked off, and they were both like, there's no way that's your first time. And I was like, it was. And so in that moment, it was really hard for me. Now I need to go back and pay my dues, right? Like I need to go and do open mics and get a chance. And it was really hard coming from 10 solid minutes of material to try to be able to do these 3 to 5 minute spots on open mic. So I had kind of a struggle. I never thought I was all that. I just thought, well, I can do more than 3 to 5 minutes. But now I've definitely worked a very solid set, and I've taken my original set and I only keep bits so it was just a weird place to come in. And also at my age, I have no problem asking for things like, can I have a shot on your spot? Like, the worst that I'm going to get told is no. And then I'm no worse off. And I think younger comics are so intimidated that they won't do it. And I was just like, I'm not going to get it. Who knows how much time I've got left? I mean, I might as well ask, kind of thing. And so it was a weird beginning for me. And so now I'm just coming into, I've paid my dues. I'm doing this. I've kind of really put in some time to realize what a solid set is versus just getting up there and winging it. And And I've never thought I was the best comic on anything, but I'm a solid comic, and I'm way okay with that. I'm like,
You're solid,
be,
consistent. Yeah.
yes, I will be good for any show because I'm solid. But
Dependable. I like that. I like that. There's something to be said about the comedians that when you're booking, you're like, I know this person will be good.
right.
So
Yeah.
but that's interesting. And I noticed that in talking to several comedians with this podcast and just in general, it feels like a lot of people have the story of the very first time they performed comedy, and when they got up there and they did it, they didn't know to be nervous. They didn't know that there was a set way to do things, and it just kind of the authenticity and the vulnerability and the first timerness, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, where it ends up going okay. And I think we need that because then that motivates us to keep going. But I can speak for myself and say that I had a pretty good first open mic set several years ago, and then I struggled for the first year or two trying to figure out how to be funny and trying to, and I know a previous guest that we had, her first show was a sold out theater show. And then the second one, someone at the sold out theater show booked her for a K-Love comedy special after that. So her first two shows were pretty big deals. And
Yeah.
then she had to get into like, okay, how do I do comedy kind of thing. So that's an interesting, and I don't know, for me, I'm grateful for those kind of moments because it shows you kind of what to look forward to. And then if you need to do the work to get to that point, you will,
Right.
so.
Exactly. It at least
But
let me know I definitely wanted to be part of that. It was for me. A lot of times people will do comedy and they're like, oh, it was fun, but that's not for me. The minute I stepped on that stage, I was like, this is it. I've been waiting my whole life to figure out what I was supposed to do, and this is it. Too bad it waited till I was 50 almost to come into my life, but I'm super grateful for it. But from that moment on, I knew I want to figure this out because I want to do this.
I love that. And when I teach, I tell the comedy students, you'll know from the minute you get on stage whether you're going to want to keep doing this again or whether one is fine, like one set is fine. Which is why I always try to encourage people if they start wanting to learn how to do comedy, because a lot of people will find me like, I want to take lessons. And even in the first lesson, I'm like, you have to hit an open mic as soon as possible because you may get up there and do it and decide this isn't for you. And I hate, I don't mind taking their money, but I feel like I should at least warn them,
Right.
but
Yes.
but so now do you have any long-term or short-term comedy goals for yourself now that you're doing this? You're 4 years in, so you're kind of committed, so this is part of you now. So
long term, and I don't know, long term, midterm goal, I definitely would like a dry bar special. That fits who I am. I would love that. That's kind of a goal. But my short-term goal, the thing that I keep doing is, I've said this from the beginning. When I got into comedy, my life was kind of chaotic. And the minute I stepped up there and I was doing comedy, all of the noise and chaos in my life just was quiet. I was in that moment.
That's
and for
cool.
those 15, 20, whatever I'm up there, for that amount of time I'm up there, I have nothing but peace. And it's such a good feeling. And I've been at comedy shows where I was completely entertained. And the entire time I'm there, again, same thing. I'm just present in that moment. And if I can give anybody, little moments of peace and levity for 5 to 25 minutes at a time, that's my goal. I'm doing what I'm here to do as long as I'm doing that.
Oh my gosh, I love that because that is literally so the brand that I created called Quarter Mile Entertainment, which like Clean Comedy Collective and this podcast and all the other things I do all fall under that. That is the basis of it. Is we're creating what we call quarter mile moments for people, and it's based off of a Fast and Furious quote where Vin Diesel was saying like, "I live my life a quarter mile at a time. For those 10 seconds or less, I'm free." And it's basically that. It's like when you're finding that thing that you do, whether you're on stage, is providing you that moment where like you're free, you're not stressing, you're not worrying, you're in your happy place. Or as comedians, as creatives, we get to create that space for other people when we perform, which is absolutely, it's just a beautiful thing. So
it is.
So me, you, and Vin Diesel have something in common. How about that?
There you go. Hey, I knew someday he and I would be, two peas in a pod. This is funny. This is a very petty little goal. I definitely want to perform in every town I have an ex-boyfriend so they can see I've done something good with my life.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic goal. I think you should You should have like some kind of board where you're marking them off as you
Well,
go.
I've already gotten like 4 down. I'm doing it.
How many more towns do you have for this?
It's undisclosed amount. Like,
That's funny. That's cool. That's fun. That would be a fun little mini series where
yeah,
like where
yeah.
we're following you as you go to all the different towns where you have
I know.
ex-boyfriends.
I actually did a show in Kansas City, and I used to have a bit where I talk about my heart problem. I'm like, well, every ex-boyfriend I've ever had would say that checks out. And from the very back of the room, I hear that checks out. And I was like, oh, he came. Good deal.
That's funny. I did a show one time, and I was at the time I was living in West Tennessee, and I came back to Nashville for a weekend to do some shows, and I did have an ex-girlfriend show up, like at the time my most recent ex-girlfriend, and I had jokes about her that I was doing, and I was doing them, and then I looked back and I see her, and in that moment you have to choose: are you gonna shift gears to a less awkward topic or just dig in? The jokes were doing well, so I just dug in. And
Nice.
I and but then I talked to her afterwards, and the first thing she said was like, like you weren't telling the truth up there. I was like, well, yeah, it's stand-up comedy. I wasn't,
Yeah, it's like
like,
we get a little bit of creative license here, right?
yeah. But it ended up being a really good conversation because we used that as opportunity to like work out some other stuff and like just had some weird closure for the relationship. And I've
That's
always been grateful for that weird and random experience. So
Yeah, isn't it funny how therapeutic in all facets of our lives comedy can be sometimes?
absolutely. I do. I mean, it's literally one of my favorite thing that we get to do. So that's cool. Now, what would you say has been maybe one of your biggest struggles or hardest things you've had to deal with in stand-up comedy since you've begun?
Um, you know, there people will say there's not a line in comedy, but for me there was like I like to not necessarily poke fun, but I mean I am very relatable. Most of my comedy is like I write about my life. I don't ever want to cross the line and put somebody's business too far out there or hurt my mother. She's the most sensitive one's feelings. My granddaughter, who is a huge source of my material, one time at the very beginning, she came up to me and says, "You need to quit talking about me up there." And I was like, "I kind of can't. You're like my bread and butter right now." And then she came to a show we had back in my hometown. And you talked about that. My hometown's about 600 to 800 people, depending on the
Mhm.
year, depending on the harvest. And
Huh.
at that show, we had over 160 people there. And so it was a really good show. And all of us sat right at the front and literally didn't watch me as much as everybody's reaction to the stories about her.
Mm.
And that puffed this girl's head up. Now she calls me and gives me comedy advice all the time, which
Oh,
is
that's
very
funny.
humbling when a 7-year-old calls you and says, "Hey, you need to say this."
That's
But
delightful.
yeah. So finding a fine line that doesn't like expose
Mhm.
or cross any lines within my family, but and then also uh because I'm so family oriented, really I've missed birthdays and stuff, and I'm like trying really hard to prioritize that at the same time keeping the momentum of my career going. So that kind of thing. But also, and this was right at the beginning because this was happening a lot at the beginning. I would have people be like, "You could make that darker, or you could do this," and
Mhm.
staying true to who I was as a person became the most integral part of my journey because I don't want to change my comedy to pander to an audience. Because every time I leave the stage, I want to feel very, very good about what I did up there. I don't want to be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. So standing my ground and being like, no, that is not for me, turning things down. And when you're first starting, saying no is so hard. And so
Absolutely.
it was learning to say no to things that didn't fit my brand or who I was, my character, and knowing that it's okay. That opportunity wasn't for me. The right opportunity will come. It's okay to say no. And I see so many young comics, especially I get to watch it firsthand. I'm like, you should have said no to that. Or
Mm.
they'll say, and I did this once. I said yes to headlining way too soon
I've
because
done that
who
too.
doesn't want to headline, right?
Yeah.
I was like, well, and so I was like, oh, I should not have done that. And I'm watching people do that. Like I'm coming and I'm excited about this show, but the person doing the show doesn't like producing it is just comedy adjacent. So they're randomizing the, and I am actually featuring for someone that's had like a fraction of the experiences I have. And my heart, I have no ego problem with it. I just feel bad for her because she's setting herself up for very difficult set.
For sure. Yeah. You will, in that, for her, you will be a tough act to follow. And
exactly.
that,
And I know that. And that's not me being egotistical. That's me being realistic. I have 4 years in, I've had very many experiences. I have a very solid set. I would, at one less than 1 year in, I wouldn't want to follow me. I wouldn't want to, you know, I mean, so
yeah.
So those,
but you know what? We learn as we go, and
exactly.
this might be one of, you know,
and
one of
that's
her experiences where she learns, you know,
and that's, a lot of it is just learning as you go. That's why I have not said anything. I'm just like, I'm excited to feature. I'm doing whatnot. And I figure that's how I learned that lesson. I did headline and it did not go well. And that is a very humbling experience. And I was like, well, you know what, girlie, you went too soon. It's okay to say no. I'm not ready.
I really like that advice. It's okay to say no. And I got to tell you, I don't know. I don't know if I would have listened to it back in the day, but more people should have told me it's okay to say no, because I actually went by the entirely different philosophy starting in comedy, which is like say yes to everything. I've told that to people before. And I think it might depend on people's personalities, and you said you kind of knew your brand, you knew your character, you knew what you were building. I think when I first started, I was still figuring it all out, so I was kind of shooting all the shots and seeing what would land and kind of thing. But I'm learning now that it's okay to say no to things. But I feel like when I first started, I would bend over backwards to say yes to everything because I didn't want to miss an opportunity, or I didn't want to, let someone down or something like that. But especially now that in this current season of my life, comedy is not my only full-time job. And so ever since I got the other full-time job, it's so great to say no to the gig requests that you know are going to be like terrible, like hey, can you come do a roast show at my 16-year-old daughter's birthday party? Like there's a point where I was like, this sounds terrible, but I need a paycheck, and now I can be like, I'm good. Like
you're like, that's not for me. I'm in the process of starting my own production company now because I don't fit everything, but I know so many comics that do. And I was booked at a club in Columbia, Missouri, and I had gotten asked, the small town that uses me a lot, they wanted me to do their after prom. And I was like, I said, if you trust me, I'll book it. I won't be there. And they're like, fine, it went great. And I was like, I'm really good at finding people for things. So I'm working on that so that I can say yes to more things, but not in the right format.
And I love that, Chrissy. I'm also kind of in that boat too, where like with running productions and then finding people, and I'm leaning more into that now. And I'll tell you something I love about this that I think you'll find as well. It is so awesome when you help someone else get like paid work. It is so awesome when because of the work that you're doing, it creates opportunities for other people.
Right.
And I think that is like a really big benefit of like producing shows, is you're creating space for more entertainers to entertain. So I think you'll really get it. I think you'll really dig that.
About it for sure.
So yeah. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. I'm wanting to backtrack to your baking, honestly. So what what is like the best thing that you bake? What are your specialties?
Well, so funny is for the longest time, is these cookies that I made. My family loves them. It has chocolate chips and oatmeal and all this stuff. And I'd kind of crafted a recipe. My family loves them. I moved into this house and it was built in the 60s. And I swear on my life, the oven that's here is the original oven. And I struggle with it so much. So I kind of switched gears. I make incredible no-bake cookies. People are always like, would you please make those again? But I make my own vanilla and that helps. And then, but recently I've started making this beer bread with dill pickle beer. And I make this really amazing crust, and it's become so popular. It's become 90% of my personality. Everybody's like, hey, Chrissy's coming. Do you think she's bringing bread? it's what everybody knows. My husband actually just took a couple loaves over to his best friend. So he's like, Kevin's been asking. I was like, okay, you can take this. So
How's it feel to know that you're the reason that your husband and Kevin are friends?
yeah, it's probably the only reason because it's not Mike's personality. No, just kidding. But yeah, and that's what I did make for the telethon the bake sale for the telethon was this bread. But I baking has been really fun. I am a good cook as well, and people like a lot of people that cook. They're like, I like cooking because you can like make like subtle changes and you can play with it a little bit. Baking's such a science and you can't. And I find that very, very not true. I will add things in. I will play with it. I get like my banana bread. Nobody can replicate my banana bread because I've started doing different things to it. And so I just like to have some fun with it. Kind of like that's my whole life motto. Have fun with it. Bake like if it doesn't taste good, it still got sugar in it. Somebody's gonna eat it, right? So
yeah. There's baking has to be like comedy in that there's like an audience for whatever you make. Like they're like someone will enjoy it. Because people might say like I don't like chocolate or I don't like cake or pie or whatever, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who's like I don't like desserts.
Right, exactly. Across the board, there's something in that category they like. Now, I have an interesting situation in that fact that my middle sister has had to change the way that she eats completely because of allergies, and so all of a sudden she's gluten and dairy free. Which the day she told me she couldn't eat cheese anymore, I was like, you might as well just give up. Because what's the point?
Yeah.
but I have found a local bakery that makes the most amazing gluten and vegan gluten-free and vegan things ever. But watching her actually get to enjoy something that I also thought was good and I was surprised. I'm going to start trying to make some things that I'm going to try to bake a few things that she can eat that fit into, and so it's a work in progress because I use a lot of butter in my baking, and that's going to be the hardest thing to kind of adjust to not for her. But I do want to be able to bake something that when I show up to something, I'm like, hey, I made something for you. You can eat this.
Yeah, and I'm sure she'll appreciate that. Or she might just be like, you know what, for your desserts, I'll just take the hit. I'll just eat
I know yesterday she really I watched her trying to look at my bread because she's only heard how good it is. And I came in, I was like, hot bread coming in. And I was like, oh, I felt so bad, but just life how it works, I guess.
This is just how it works. Yeah. Well, so we're gonna transition to the part of the show called Ask a Comedian. So here, I forgot to tell you this ahead of time, but basically, it's not. I feel like I'm about to drop a bomb. It's not that big of a deal. Like like we actually have people at your house right now that are coming in to ask. No. So online, people have submitted questions on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads. They're random questions. I always let them know. It doesn't have to be comedy related. A lot of them end up being comedy related, which I guess it makes sense because the title of the segment is Ask a Comedian. So I have questions that have been given to us, and just a friendly reminder to anyone listening, you can submit a question in basically any way you want. On any of our social media, any of my social media, Drew Davis Comedy, and I frequently about once a month ask people to send in questions. So if you're waiting for that, it'll pop up. You can just text a question in. There's actually a link on anything that you're listening to us that says like send us mail or send us a question. I don't really remember what it says, but it's on the notes section. And if you press that, you can send us in a question. I've had people email me questions before, so you can do that if you want. I imagine if you know me personally and you want to just walk up and be like, hey, add this question to the list, you could do that too. So the way it works, Chrissy, is I'm going to give, you're going to pick 3 numbers between 1 and 29. Okay. And that will dictate which questions I'm asking. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and give me some numbers.
Okay, 17, 8, and 24.
All right, 17, 8, and 24. All right, great questions. I think I haven't actually looked at them yet. So, all right, we'll start. I mean, I have looked at them when I wrote them down, but like, okay, 17. What a great random start. 17 comes from comedian Joyce Lyles from Alabama. She's also in the Clean Comedy Collective. And her question is, how do you handle constipation?
Oh, Um, Luckily for me, I've not struggled with that much, but I've lost 176 pounds, and so my diet's really changed. I noticed when I used to eat just hot garbage, I never had a problem with it. Now it's a little bit more. I definitely use these little Miralax chews. And I spend a lot of time, like I will take my time. I take a good book in the restroom or my phone, and I just give myself time to work things out.
Just let the body do what the body does, right?
Yeah.
All right. I use it as an example to eat more like Taco Bell. I'm like, we'll open up. It'll work
Yeah,
out.
it'll work. That will definitely do it.
So, okay. Thank you. That was a random question, but a good
It was,
answer.
yeah, 17. I will never pick that number again. No.
There we go. All right. This one comes from Joe Whitey, also a comedian from the Clean Comedy Collective. I want to say she's from Arizona.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yes, you two would probably get along real well. What comedian would you love to collaborate with and why?
Uh, it's so funny. And I actually just told a club owner this, and they're like, well, you guys, but Fortune Femster has always been like, I love her comedy. I love how relatable she has, real strong family roots as well, and has worked them into her story. I would love to sit down and talk to her and just kind of pick her brain and work with her. I don't know that we have the same demographic, but I definitely enjoy her. Also, Andy Woodhull is a comic that he makes my heart happy. He laughs at his own jokes. I love that stuff. So I've actually gotten to talk to him. I would like to work with him as well. And then Shane Smith, who is so vastly physically different than me, but watching him take such a crazy life past and turn it into clean comedy. I just think it's amazing. And to look like he does and still be able to sell out clean shows over and over and over. I find that amazing. So there's probably fewer comics that I would not like to sit down and collab with than there would, because I feel like I can learn something from almost anybody. But I've been very fortunate with those who I have got to chat with. But it's funny because anytime anybody says, who would you like to work with? I'm like, Fortune always comes up. I just have always liked her style. But of course, you have Leanne Morgan, who's doing so great right now. And it's like, well, you're so much like her. And I'm like, well, I am not the Southern genteel woman that she is. I am rip roaring from the wheat fields of Kansas. But I love what she's been able to cultivate. I love how and she's also at that time in her life where like, she has a lot coming at her right now. How is she balancing it all with her family? Because, so those are the kind of questions I want to ask in those situations. But more than a handful of comics are on my list to talk to. But if somebody said one shot, you say their name and you'll work with them, it would be Fortune.
That makes sense. That's cool. Mine's a toss up between, on one hand, Jim Gaffigan has always been my favorite comedian. I mean, from college, maybe even before then. So it'd really be cool to like go on the road with him or tour with him or work with him. But another one that I'd really like to work with is Pete Holmes, not just because I like his stuff, but I was the TV show that he produced and starred in, Crashing, which was about a former pastor who became a comedian. Like it was the last straw to give me permission to be like, I want to do full-time comedy. Like it was a big thing for me. And I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of the comedians on that show, but not him yet. So it's like, I really want to do that. I'm going to ask a bonus question because I meant to ask it earlier and I didn't. And if I don't ask it, then I'll just think about it for the rest of my life and never be able to sleep again. So obviously you're in the Clean Comedy Collective, which means you work clean. Do you exclusively only do clean shows and do you only work clean, or do you do like not clean shows but work clean on shows, or do you do like clean when you're on a clean show and not clean when you're on not clean?
I don't work exclusively clean, predominantly clean. We'll do that. And I have what I call like I can do for everyone, and I do those. I get asked a lot for family friendly shows. That's it. I have quite a bit of PG-13 material. I don't swear much in general, and I leave that out of almost every show. But if it is like a later show and it is not, it's like they've put 18 and up and whatnot, I have a little bit of material that's reserved for those shows. So I can do adult friendly, or not, they're all friendly, but it kind of was one of those things. My very first 2 shows that I did, my parents were at them. And I even ran a couple things by my mom. I'm like, I'm going to say this. Is this a problem? No, no. And after that, it was like, I started hearing everybody's like, oh, I hear you're so wholesome. I hear you're so wholesome. And when I told my mom that, nobody laughed harder than my mom. I was like, Mom, that's rude.
That's
But
funny.
I got to thinking about like what is coming across that is like, oh, my parents were in the audience at the first 2 shows. I don't want written out of their will. I was on my best
Yep.
behavior.
Oh, yeah, I remember, you still got to show up to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner,
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah.
exactly.
So,
But it kind of falls through. It doesn't, like, my adult stuff is still never, again, I fall in line with it. If I wouldn't say it in front of my mom, I'm not going to say it in front of a random mix of audience. Unfortunately, in my first year when I was kind of finding my footing, I filled in for somebody at something, and I hadn't really set my tone yet. And I actually used language that I don't ever use, even in real life or ever on stage anymore in it. And it is honestly one of the only Googleable things about me you can find, because whoever recorded it put it out there for the masses, and I can't get it taken down. And I'm like, that doesn't fit who I am. Don't go off of that. That's not, because I did a show at a church and a couple of the board members were trying to find out some information about me, and that's what they saw. And
oh, man.
no, that's not me, not my heart. I apologize. Don't base any assumptions of me on that. But so no, I don't work exclusively clean. I do kind of tailor it to the audience. I have worked completely clean on a show, and it is always funny, especially here where everybody knows each other. I'll perform, and then someone that, like, I love Terrell Norton so much. He's so great, but he's definitely not a clean comic. And he'll come up after me and be like, what a juxtaposition to go from sweet peaches, Chrissy here to this. And it's always, but so I will a lot of times be clean, even on a show that I don't need to be, just because that's what I want to do that night,
Yeah. I can relate to that. I'm a variety as well, but I do feel I've learned long ago I do not have the face for crass comedy, like, and like it just doesn't work for me. But it does seem like a lot of my better stuff ends up being the clean stuff. So I think part of it is leaning to what's authentically you. And
Right.
but yeah, so I'm always interested in that. I like the answers to that, because I don't think people ever have to be exclusively clean, but to an extent though, you also have to know who you're marketing yourself to. I have had more than a few people who know that I'll apply for a very clean show, but they'll see all the stuff that I do and they'll think like, oh, we don't want this person. And now I know for a fact I can go on that show and be the kind of clean they want to. But I also have to be okay with the fact that, like, when you look at my act in its entirety, some people who want the cleanest of the clean, or the people who want the dirtiest of the dirty, are not going to be impressed with me.
Right. Exactly.
But that's okay. All right, last question. This comes to us from Facebook, from Susan. Susan Horn, who's also a clean comedy collective comedian, and we'll have her on this podcast at some point. And it's simply, what do you do when you blank on stage?
Well, I am 52 and I blank a lot. I also have ADHD. So I am one of those that I bring up a little note card with what I call a set list. Mike Birbiglia did that. And I was like, and that legitimatized it for me, because everybody's like, don't take notes on stage. Or I'll see these young comics with their phones and I'm like,
Right.
I would. But when Mike Birbiglia brought his set list on stage, I was like, I can do that. So if I blank, I am real good at just casually looking over and I can kind of grab myself. But a lot of times I'm terrible at ums and buts. I say that a lot, and I am trying so diligently to get away from it. I hardly will ever take a drink on stage, but I always take something up there with me, water or a soda, so that if I blank, I stop, I take a drink, I kind of regather myself, and it gives me a moment to kind of get my bearings.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
also why I'm not good at crowd work, because that plays into the whole ADHD. I've got a plan. I have a plan when I come up there. That's why I got a set list. I have a plan. And if you mess up my plan, then I'm all like, oh, squirrel. And I'm trying to regrab them. But that is why the set list is key, because I can just casually look over and regroup. So
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with taking that moment, either taking that drink of water or taking that quiet to kind of collect yourself, because a lot of comedians will get flustered and then they'll say things, and they'll say some like things that typically take us out of the act a little bit, like, oh, what's next? Or hold on a second, I forgot what I was to say. But taking a moment, like I like the drinking of water because that can kind of hide the fact that you're looking at your notes. But even just pausing and then figuring it out and moving on. There's nothing, a good quiet moment between routines during your set. There's nothing wrong with that.
I did get a really good piece of advice from a comic once. They're like, don't be afraid of the silence. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to fill every second of, like, it's okay to take a pause and take a breath and like regather yourself. And I do very, very diligently try to stay away from what else do I have for you? Or, oh, let me see what's next. Or, oh, I lost where I was. I try not to pull the curtain back too far and just kind of nicely segue into like, I'm going to just take a drink, take a minute, figure out where I was and go from there. So
I had a friend who he used to produce a show, and it was called like What Else? And one of the side rules of it was a showcase is like, if any of the comedians say what else, then their routine, like they get the light. So yeah, which is kind of, but you know what, everyone who got on the show knew that that was a rule, and I don't think I ever saw anyone accidentally say what else or whatever, but it was just a fun little thing. So cool. I appreciate you answering those questions. Friendly reminder to anyone listening, you can send in your questions and we'll ask whoever our next comedian is if we pick your number. So Chrissy, first of all, thank you so much for being on this show. And the people listening may not know this, but you saved my butt this week. I needed an interview for Saturday, and I had asked a few people, and I got tired of individually asking people, so then I just kind of put it out to all the Clean Comedy Collective comedians, and you were the first to respond, so I appreciate that.
I was super excited to do it. I've looked forward to getting to work with you in any capacity. So this was fun for me. So thank you.
Yeah, this is a great interview, and you have such a positive, approachable energy to you. So, and I think that's probably why you're so good on stage. Is from the minute you get up there, people just like your vibe. They like you, and so I appreciate that. And now, do you have anything you would like to promote, or where can people find you, or what do we got going on that we can point people to?
Let's see. I'm going to be opening up for Carolan in Muskogee, Oklahoma on June 13th at the Roxy. I'm super excited about that. I'm going to do my very first Next Stop comedy show in Newton, Kansas on the 12th of June. So that weekend's big for me.
That's a big weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Oh, we're doing a clean comedy show at the Looney Bin in August 2nd. It's the first Sunday in August. So I'm pretty excited about that. Those are the kind of shows, that and Carolan show are shows that I'm pushing to everyone, because from my parents' church group to my kids' teachers and my grandkids' teachers and everything, like, come to these shows. I know you won't be offended. I know you'll find some of us funny. It'll be a good show. So always like being able to do that. And I am going to try to get down your way into Tennessee. I'm going for a family reunion, so I'm going to try to grab some comedy on the way back. And so I'm all over. My social medias are Chrissy Iles, Chrissyiles comedy, and both Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And 50, because I'm all like, Instagram. I said, you can tell I'm in my 50s because Instagram's always an afterthought to me.
Right. It is, but you know what? Like, they keep coming out with new social media. Like, an Instagram just had a new thing that I'm like, is this something we have to? I wait till everyone else gets into it before I try it. And if you're ever in Nashville on the last Thursday of the month, I produce a regular show the last Thursday of the month. And so I always it's a clean show. So I always like to let Clean Comedy Collective comedians know that, hey, if you're ever in town, it's not like, I wouldn't say you won't get paid enough to validate the travel from Tulsa, but it's a fun show.
Yeah, I do want to come down to that area, so I'm gonna try to do that first thing is once school goes back into session this next year.
Yeah,
So
that's wonderful. And for everyone listening, just a friendly reminder, check us out at cleancomedycollective.com. You can see all the comedians that are in the Clean Comedy Collective. We currently have about 239 from, or maybe 230 from 39 different states. Chrissy is in the Oklahoma section. I'm in the Tennessee section. You can check out what shows we have coming up that are in the Clean Comedy Collective umbrella. You can listen to previous episodes of this podcast. If you're a comedian and you're interested in applying for the Clean Comedy Collective or learning more about us, there's a section for that too. And if you're just like, man, these guys are so cool, I wish I could just give them all my money, there's a donation section as well. So lots of different cool things you can do on the website. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for being on this podcast.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a great chat. And for everyone listening, we hope to hear you. We don't hope to hear. That sounds mean. It's like, don't talk to us. But what I mean is, yeah, we hope that you hear us next week when we come back with a different comedian. That's what I meant. This is the weirdest outro ever. You all have a great day. See you later.
You're welcome.